allow me to append what I was saying earlier today about the effect of watching old television shows and old movies. And when I say old, not old, but movies and TV shows from a few years ago. Um, it really is startling to see how much the thought police have taken over, and how you're just not allowed to present anything but a very narrow scope of scenarios. And As far as humor goes, as far as mainstream humor goes, I don't know if such a thing is even possible anymore. I mean, mainstream humor by its own, I mean, in its own, is already limiting with the word mainstream put before it. But I can think of in years past, you know, watching say late night comics like Carson or Letterman or others, Leno, and think and like sort of, okay, that was funny, that was amusing, that was funny, and even though I've never had a quote unquote mainstream sense of humor, it seemed like at one time it was possible to be funny within the mainstream, and now I just don't know how it's possible, because anything that you say uh, can and will be used against you. Um, in the court of Twitter, in the court of social media, uh, and everything is cancelable, um, unless it's unless it's the dreary kind of dreck that nobody even likes anyway. Not even the thought police people like that dreck. That passes, that's supposed to be comedic. But it's shorn of every rough edge, everything that could possibly be abrasive or offend the wrong people in the wrong way, and so forth. But I wanted to say that um, when I was when it was around the time of the turn of the millennium, between 1998 and 2001, I lived in Dallas, Texas. I was going to graduate school, and while I was there, I became a consumer of a sports talk station there called The Ticket, 1310 The Ticket. And they were really funny. There were a lot of, like, they didn't just talk sports. They got into, they did you know pop culture, and they did bits and shtick and stuff, and it was really uncommonly funny. A cut above most sports talk radio that I had heard previously. And I've always been a moderate sports fan. So anyway, but I remember back then, and this seems so foreign to me now. It's hard to fathom this, but I remember back then, I was annoyed by the kind of frat boy attitude and mentality that would sometimes come through with these hosts. The way they would like talk about hot girls, and just sort of be like, if a woman ever called in to a station, and she had a alluring voice, then they just got really lecherous, and like sometimes it was funny because they were being they were being so obvious about it. But other times it was just sort of like, God, just give it a rest already, you know. And then at the same time, they would like disparage fat girls and ugly girls, and they would, and things like that. And for me at the time, I just thought, God, this is really, and I was never, I've never been PC, but I just thought at the time, this is pretty obnoxious. Like why? Uh, I don't want to hear them being lecherous all the time. It's just, and they weren't. all the time, but they were like enough of the time that it was distracting to me. And and I got the feeling that it was something that really didn't bother many of the other listeners. It was just par for the course. It was something that was just a part of who they were. But it was the one thing about them that I really that would get on my nerves. Mostly, I really liked their irreverent take on sports and how they would make fun of coaches and do imitations and I don't know uh, you know riff on pop culture on movies and music and what have you. But that was an aspect that I just disliked about them. And now I just like so much of the program was about well, they talked about ticket chicks. Maybe somebody's listening to this who's in Dallas and can tell me this, can answer this for me. I could also just go online and listen to the station now online for a length of time and just see if I were really interested enough. Um, I would do that, but I don't know. It's not quite the time sink that would involve would not quite, I think, be worthwhile. Um, but I'm sure they don't do that anymore. I'm like I'm almost positive that they can't be making jokes about fat girls anymore, and about girls who are ugly or tore up, as they that's one thing that they would say. She's just tore up. Um, um, like that just wouldn't. Uh, I don't know. Like I just don't see that um, being allowed by the Guardians these days. Um, and what's strange to me, what's interesting to me is that I did uh, very sincerely find it really irritating. Um, to the point where sometimes I just got annoyed and just changed the station. I didn't listen to them all the time or put in a tape, because this is what back in the tape era. It was the waning years of cassette tape, but I hung on to the cassette tape to my cassette tapes as long as I possibly could. This was way before streaming, way before any of that. Young young folk out there who are listening to this. This is when you listen to music in your car with a tape or a CD. But a CD, I hung on to tapes as long as I could until they just stopped selling them. Anyway, uh, so the same kind of attitude that they had that really I found abrasive and obnoxious and just juvenile and even kind of insulting. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's like I've said before. I'm not in favor of just insulting people who are fat and ugly just because they're fat and ugly. I mean, uh, I'm no prize myself. But even if I were a prize, like when I say I'm no prize, when people say that they're no prize themselves, to be humble and stuff, even if I were a prize, that would be worse, right? That would be like, because if you are amongst the 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 top echelon of good-looking people, it's sort of like a noblesse oblige. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Um, it's a word that I've seen written, or a term rather, that I've seen written more than I've heard pronounced. But the way that in the old days of the aristocracy and the peasants, that the peasants, the aristocracy had to show their benevolence to the peasants by doing nice things for them. showing that they cared for them and stuff. And so, I think that just like if you're among the smartest or among the high echelon in any way, you kind of have this responsibility to be to not be to not behave in a way towards all the people who are below you. That makes them feel like you sort of mind your manners more in that sort of situation. You should anyway. I think that it would be. I think that being ugly and making fun of another ugly person, you know, is bad. But being good looking and making fun of an ugly person, that's like even worse. That's just that's just that's like, I hate the term punching down, but that is punching down. That's a legitimate instance of punching down. But anyway, um, I didn't like this stuff back then, and I remember like not thinking, as I've said before, I didn't think they would go whole hog with the fat acceptance stuff. I didn't think they would shove fat people into our faces and make them into models and Victoria's Secret models and transgender men and make them into Playboy models and all the. I didn't think Sports Illustrated models, what have you. I didn't think that would ever happen. Um, and uh, so it's just like it's shocking now that I would, but if I went back and I heard them being acting in their 1998 1990, well, in their way, according to the mores of the time period, just like the disclaimer at the beginning of Jackass that I mentioned in that last video. If I heard that today, I would be refreshed by it. It's just because now we've gone to it's the opposite extreme, right? Uh, if once that kind of behavior, the frat boy ish kind of behavior was sort of tolerated and countenanced and indulged even in some cases. Uh, Today, it's the very opposite. And you can't even. I mean, you can't even say that somebody is fat. You can't even. You can't even say I don't find her attractive because she is fat. Um, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to feel that way, but yet you do feel that way, don't you? Because that's just it's the way it is. The loins want what they want, and they don't want what they don't want. Um, to better paraphrase Woody Allen. Um, so yeah, so it's really to think that in a span of 20 to 25 years, um, but particularly more like in the span of the last 10 years, and especially the last 7 years, and especially the last 4 years since 2020. It's just been just this accelerated kind of thing. It really has been this what could be called a culture kampf, a culture war, culture struggle. Where with moneyed, powerful people, moneyed, powerful uh, uh, sources, um, just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing in a totally unnatural direction. Pushing for things that are uh, unusual, that are that are I mean, things that aren't necessarily bad in and of themselves, like mixed marriage, but like having to have a mixed couple everywhere, or having to have a gay couple in every commercial or in every sitcom. If they do they still make sitcoms? I don't know. Um, this mad push for quote unquote inclusion and everything. Um, you know, it's 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 it kind of makes your head spin to know how much they've pushed this stuff, how aggressively they've pushed all this stuff in such a really an accelerated period of time. This is no 100-year plan. This is like, okay, now we're gonna be now we're gonna be this way. Now fat women are beautiful, and you're a bigot if you don't like it. And trans men are women, and you should want to date them if you're a man, or else you're a bigot. All this crap that nobody really believes, but that everybody pushes, and few people have the guts to stand up against. It's something everybody, and it's something nobody would have stood up for uh, in in the days that I'm remembering being in Dallas, listening to the Ticket 13, Sports Radio 13 down the Ticket. Um, so So yeah, I don't know. My conclusion is basically not much different from in my other video. But I just wanted to say that I'm saying this as someone who found who found the frat boy humor, or the kind of the insensitive, like the just uh, like it's open season on fat and ugly women. I found that whole attitude to be pretty repugnant. I still do. I still don't like it, but uh, we've just swung so far in the other direction, and we haven't just swung. Again, the pendulum hasn't swung. Someone's made it swing. Pendulum, it's not a natural. It's not a naturally occurring thing. Yes, certain things occur naturally in a culture, but not this. This has been pushed and prodded uh, on us, and that's where I'll leave off. Thanks for listening.